Today, I'm gonna be using science to make my mountain bike 4.20 times better. After that, I'm gonna be taking the bike to the trails to find out if my theory was correct or if I should just leave science to the engineers. In stock form, this Polygon Siskiu T8 is a great bike, but that doesn't mean it can't get better. Today I'll be altering the bike's geometry, I'll be changing the material compound of a few key components, I'm changing the shape of the most important part of the drivetrain to get more efficiency, and I'll be using magnetic polarity to get the best connection to the bike possible. Let's begin the experiment, starting with the geometry. The stock head tube angle on this Polygon Siskiu T8 is 65.5 degrees, which is great for all-round riding. But I want to find out if a slacker head tube angle and maybe a little bit more travel up front is going to make this bike even better at pointing down some steep and gnarly chutes. So I picked up this used Fox 36 with 160 mils of travel. That's 20 millimeters more than the stock Fox 34 Rhythm comes with. The bigger and longer fork is not only going to slacken the head tube, but also raise the bottom bracket, lengthen the wheelbase, and slacken the seat tube angle. Are all these changes going to make the bike better or totally ruin the way it rides? You're going to have to stick around to find out. Next, I'll be changing the material compound of a few key components to get a totally different feeling ride. I'm installing carbon bars and carbon wheels. The handlebars I chose are the OneUp carbon bars. Not only are these bars lighter than the stock aluminum ones, but take a look at their shape. OneUp's patented oval transition goes from a 35mm clamp to a 22.2mm control zone as fast as possible to minimize weight and get the best feel possible. You just can't do these shapes with aluminum. Benchmarked against some of the most popular bars out there, the engineers at OneUp saw a 21% increase in compliance. That just means more comfort when the trail gets rough. And they saw a 28% increase in lateral stiffness. That means better responsiveness when you're trying to steer the bike. The other crucial part I'll be changing to carbon are the wheels. I've heard time and time again that wheels are by far the most noticeable upgrade you can do on a mountain bike. Lighter rotational mass means it's easier to accelerate up to speed, as well as make climbing easier. A stiffer wheel also means that it's going to be more precise, and at the speed we like to ride bikes these days, that's a good thing to have. I decided to go with NOBL wheels for a few reasons. Number one, they're Canadian and based on Vancouver Island, only a few hours from me. Number two, these wheels come with a lifetime warranty. Now I've bent, snapped, and broken so many alloy wheels over the years that these would have paid for themselves. And get this, if I ever manage to break a rim during riding, they'll just send me a new one. All I gotta do is pay for the shipping. Now that's standing behind your product. Which leads me to number three. After meeting Chris and the team at NOBL, I quickly realized that these guys are serious about making the best wheels on the market. And lastly, they're fully customizable. You can pick the color of your nipples, spoke, valve, and the decals on the wheels. And you get to choose what hub you want it laced to. I got mine on the Industry 9 Hydras with 690 points of engagement. Just listen to these. As for the science behind these wheels, NOBL's premium wheels are molded with their sine wave technology, making the rims as laterally stiff and as light as possible. They're also asymmetrical to be perfectly balanced and front and rear specific. The front is wider for better steering and lighter. As for the rear, the sidewalls are a little bit thicker, so they're better at taking abuse. Now, is all of this just marketing or actual real science that a regular band like me can actually feel? We'll find out when we get to the trails. After changing the geometry and adding the carbon components, this bike is starting to look sick. But I'm not done. Absolute Black loves the channel, and they asked me if I'd like to try some of their revolutionary products. After reading up on them, I quickly realized that these would actually make a difference to the way my bike pedals and comes to a stop. Contrary to popular belief, the oval chainring does not create any more power. It simply increases your pedaling effectiveness. The less force you waste, the more energy you preserve, allowing you to push harder when it counts, or just reduce your tiredness. Absolute Black didn't just stop at pedaling efficiency. They engineered what they're calling the world's best brake pads. Here's the science. We've all heard the term brake fade, and some of you out there might experience it on every one of your rides. That refers to the brake pads getting too hot during long descents and losing their braking effectiveness. To keep the pads under 400 degrees Celsius, Absolute Black has extended the back of the pad into this honeycomb pattern. This allows the wind that passes through it to cool the brake pad, as well as the caliper and the hydraulic fluid within the system. Just take a look at these shots taken with the infrared camera. The bright white measures 400 degrees Celsius, and the dark purple a cool 27 degrees. You can see here that the Shimano pad gets hot, does a great job of displacing that heat, but stays hot. And the honeycomb Graphen pads stay nice and cool. The other key element that makes these brake pads so revolutionary is the Graphen compound that they use to contact the rotor. This new compound is engineered to do two things very well. It transfers the heat to the honeycomb backplate 20 times better than resin or metal compounds. And it prolongs the lifetime of the disc by embedding little bits of Graphen into the micropores of the rotor's braking surface. Better braking efficiency reduces hand fatigue, and a smoother braking surface will keep the noise down when they get wet. I'm super excited to try these. Having confidence in your brakes is very important if you ask me. So now, on paper at least, this bike is going to be better on steep terrain, lighter and more responsive, more comfortable in the chunk, better at climbing, better at braking. So where should I put these magnets?
On the pedals, of course.
I've been a flat pedals guy my whole life. While I've tried clips for a few days, I never really liked the feeling of being tied to the bike. Don't get me wrong, I understand the benefits. Being able to pull up on the pedals as well as push down definitely makes you more powerful when you're cranking up a hill or accelerating it up to speed. Also, when the trail gets chunky, having your feet stay in the same position on the pedal definitely gives you more confidence. It just lets you charge faster through those rough sections. But for me, being able to tripod my leg out if my front wheel loses traction is something that I'm used to doing. Being tied to the bike kind of scares me. Enter the science of magnetic polarity. These pedals from Magped use super strong magnets to properly align your shoe with the pedal every time. They have two different magnet strengths and they go on just like a clipless pedal. The main difference here is that you can just slide your foot off when you need it. You're not actually tied to the bike. Today we'll be testing both the 150 and 200 Newton meter magnets to find the perfect feel. Okay, what do you guys think of my Frankenstein bike? I think it looks sick. Well, except for this super long steer tube. But I might be using these forks on another bike, so I don't want to cut them down just yet. I can't wait to find out if all this science is actually going to translate into something I can feel on the trails. Let's go find out. Riding these jumps and berms, the most noticeable thing on the bike is definitely the wheels. The bike just accelerates so much faster and the wheels don't flex in the corners at all. The bike just stays exactly on course and it's one less thing for me to have to think about. I can just look ahead and get ready for the next feature. The brake pads feel awesome. They have great modulation with a ton of bite when I need it. And you guys hear anything? Me neither. They're super quiet. So let's get climbing back up to find out if these magnetic pedals and oval chainring made a big difference to the climbing ability of this bike. Trust me, when it comes to climbing, I need all the help I can get.
He does.
You're gonna think this sounds stupid and not scientific at all, but this oval chainring actually feels more round than the round chainring. I guess they were right in saying that the oval shape maximizes the human physiology to round out the pedal strokes and juice out as much efficiency as possible when it comes to pedaling your bike. As for the magnetic pedals from Magped, so far they've been great. I haven't had any issues taking my feet off the pedals and they stayed in the right spot the whole time when I'm bombing down the trail. I also like the feeling of my shoe just snapping into place every time when I put it on the pedal. But how do they perform when the trails get rougher? Honestly, they feel pretty good. They keep my foot in place, and again, it's one less thing to think about. It really is a happy medium between flats and clips. You're not tied to the pedal and you can still move around a little bit, but you don't have as much grip as a good set of flat pedals. This isn't the roughest trail, I know, but right now up here in Canada, our trails are still covered in snow in the higher elevations. So I'm going to have to keep testing them in the next few months. Now to really test the change in geometry, I'm gonna see how the bike feels down some of the steepest chutes I can find here. Ooh. Well, I think we got another win. Woo! The slacker head tube angle and longer wheelbase puts the front wheel a little further ahead of the bike, and that gives me more confidence in being able to roll down pretty much anything I can find. Woo! Yeah. All right, now for the final score. Changing the geometry of the bike made it very, very good for steep terrain. Adding 20 millimeters up front made the bike a whole degree slacker. But you guys have to be careful. Whatever you do up front has an effect in the back as well. So climbing really steep terrain, it felt like the front end just wanted to come up off the ground. It wasn't as good as in its stock form. So I'm gonna give it 0.7. Carbon handlebars and carbon wheels felt sick. They shaved a ton of weight off the bike. The bike was even more responsive, even sharper on the trails, and the ride is super comfortable. Match that with the lifetime warranty, that's a win. 1 point. That oval chainring is not voodoo. I could definitely feel an improvement in my pedaling. I wasn't getting tired as fast, and it felt like I had so much more power where I needed it. 1 point. The Absolute Black Graphen pads are sick. They have a ton of bite and never heated up. I got 0 brake fade, and they feel awesome. 1 point. Finally, the magnetic pedals. I think I got some work to do with those pedals. I got the magnet to hold my shoe, but my shoe never really gripped the pins all that much. I felt like I had more grip with a good set of flat pedals. So I'm gonna give it 0.5, half a point for now, and I'll be testing those in the next few videos. So there you go. Science made this already great trail bike 4.20 times better. To see how the Siskiu T8 rides in its stock form, click on this video right here to see my first ride on it. I had a ton of fun making that video. I'll see you guys there.